Good morning, everybody. You are listening to K-Talk Radio, 1640 AM. This is the show, Utah Home Sweet Home. I am your host, Yoshi Shiraki, and today I've got a big announcement that I'm super excited about. And as most of you know who follow this show, we are an entrepreneur show, a real estate show, and kind of just a winning mindset show. We have professional athletes from the NFL, NHL, MLS, to Olympians, to successful entrepreneurs, and a lot of real estate investors, as we've already discussed. And I have been in the works of putting together a real estate investing course. And that's what I'm super excited about, because it's literally a course that I've probably been putting together on and off for multiple years now. I don't even know when I started, but I started accumulating content for the course, curriculum for the course several years ago, because I want to make sure that it is the best real estate course that you can get out there. Now, I've, of course, not seen every single real estate course that there is out on the market, but I've seen a lot. In being a consultant, a national speaker for some of the educators out there, the big national educators. I've seen what their curriculum looks like. I've seen, what their education entails, and some of it, like the good stuff, I've adopted, and because I feel it's valuable, and so, but some of it I feel like it's not as valuable, and so I'm kind of just honing and refining, and we're coming to the end of this course finally. Holy cow, it's been, like I said, multiple years of progress. Finally coming down to the end where I think it's a very realistic goal that we're going to be able to launch this real estate course by the end of this year. So in the next couple months, it should be officially ready to launch. And here's what's so cool about it. A lot of real estate courses out there are tailored to a specific niche. How to buy rental properties might be a course that you'll see out there, or how to fix and flip houses, or how to wholesale houses, or whatever, right? Multiple courses out there. And originally, that is kind of the direction I started, because that was kind of what you see a lot of. And I thought, you know what? The guys that are doing this for a business professionally, that are making real estate the income producing machine that they desired, those guys typically know how to do a lot of everything, right? They might have a special niche that they love the most. Like, for example, me, my favorite niche in real estate investing is fixing and flipping, because I think it's the most fun artistic project of all the real estate projects that you would do. You get to take this really ugly house and you get to renovate it, make it drop dead gorgeous, and then turn around and flip it for a nice big chunk. However, I do understand the value of also doing rentals, which is why I've purchased a rental portfolio as well, and I also have wholesaled properties, and I'm also a licensed real estate agent, and all of the above. Seller finance transactions, I've done seller finance transactions. And so by knowing all of these different tools, it gives you the ability to do more transactions, where if all I did was fix and flip, came across a deal that didn't work, I'd probably just thank the seller for letting them meet with me and head on home. But because I have the ability to understand seller financing, creative financing, structuring a deal uniquely, differently, creatively, I can make deals work in many cases just knowing the multiple ways to do deals than just the one niche. So where I'm going with that is, originally I was going to create a course that, was niche specific. But I thought, if I really want people to succeed, I started to think about, no, that's not the way you go about doing it. I started doing that because that's kind of what you see, is the niche specific. Like, hey, do you want to know how to fix and flip houses? Here's a course on how to do that. But I started to think, yeah, but there's so much opportunity to produce income through other streams of income in the real estate game that you really, it's the most advantageous to know them all. And so that's when I thought, you know what? I'm going to do 6 courses in one. So I was putting together 6 individual courses. And now what I've decided to do is just put them all together in one, which is super exciting because now you get the whole enchilada, right? And so you're going to, one of the courses, let's see, fix and flip. Okay, you're going to learn how to fix and flip houses. There's going to be a section on how to build up a rental portfolio, how to wholesale properties, a course on seller financing, just structuring deals creatively, uniquely, just ways that typically aren't done. How to invest virtually. What I mean by that is, so I was born and raised here in Salt Lake City, and then I moved to New York City where I lived for 18 years. Now, I started going to the real estate investing associations out in New York City. And because New York City is so expensive, all of these real estate investing associations out in New York City were teaching and educating their members how to invest virtually in a market that they did not live in. Because we all lived in New York City, and there was nobody that was investing in New York City proper just because of the high prices. But what we would do is we would invest in upstate New York, we would invest in Pennsylvania, we would invest in New Jersey, we'd invest in surrounding cities, states that were not too far for some of us. And for me, I did upstate New York, I did Kansas City, and I did Salt Lake City because I was born here. So I had a lot of knowledge of the Salt Lake area. Even though I lived in New York City for 18 years, I grew up in Salt Lake City, born and raised for 18 years. And so I invested virtually. The beginning of my real estate investing career was a virtual investing career. I learned first how to invest in a market I did not live in. You know, it's become very popular now, people in Salt Lake, because the prices in Salt Lake are getting expensive. I'm seeing more and more investors who have always invested here first. They started investing locally where they lived. Because the prices have gone up, they're now entertaining the places like Idaho and Oklahoma and all the different virtual cities that have become kind of a hot market to go and invest in. That's the way I started, ironically, because I had already lived in a city that was super expensive. So there's going to be a course on how to invest in real estate virtually. I think that's important because if you live in New York City, you live in San Francisco, you live in Los Angeles, then you live in a market that's probably very difficult as far as barrier of entry into your first transaction because of the prices being so high. So if you can understand and learn how to safely invest in a market where you don't live, then it allows certain people that would not normally be able to get into the game, it would allow them to get into the investing game, right? And that's what it's all about. I think if you just get started, then at some point you can grow what you've started. But if you don't start, it's hard to grow nothing, right? But if you have something and you hold it for a while, or do what you need to do to force appreciate that asset, then you can turn and roll that asset up and buy something a little bit more expensive. We had a guest earlier this month, earlier this month, Tyler Tolbert, where he talked about his very first investment was an owner-occupied fourplex. Lived at home with his parents all up until this point, decided he wanted to buy his first investment, decided he wanted to buy a fourplex, super smart because he was going to owner-occupy it, live in one of the units, have the other 3 rent out. And the other 3 rents brought enough income that it paid his mortgage for him. So he lived almost hypothetically for free in that fourplex. You know, and I say hypothetically because there's expenses, right? You got to mow the lawn if the roof leaks. I mean, that's not free. But as far as having his debt service, his mortgage payment paid off, that was free. Like the 3 units covered his mortgage payment. What we learned is that fourplex sat on an acre of land that he subdivided and sold the land. Took the money from the land and bought a 5-plex. Rolled that money up into a 5-plex in right by Liberty Park, which he then recently sold that 5-plex because the value had gone up so much and now is invested in a 21-unit apartment building. all from a fourplex. And that's what it's about, just getting started. It's not overnight. It was a lot. It was, I think that whole process was just about a decade, if not over a decade. 10 years, but hey, that's better than nothing. If you don't start in 10 years, you have nothing, right? But if you start, and with real estate, so much of it is about timing, right? A lot of it's luck and a lot of it's timing. If you buy an asset at the bottom and over the next 10 years, values go up in that market like crazy, that's fantastic. A little bit of luck, a little bit of timing, but the fact of the matter is you got started, so you got to benefit from that luck and that timing. For those people that didn't invest at the bottom and getting started now, but have been thinking about it forever, then, they missed out on the boat. Now, if you're just thinking about it now, you've got to start somewhere, right? And so now's the best time to start. So we want to just get started, whether you live in Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York City. I wanted to create something that was going to allow people to invest in a market outside of the one you live in. So if you feel that, here's the thing. Salt Lake is starting to become unaffordable, right? So I'm talking about San Francisco, Los Angeles, New York City, but, there's markets like Seattle that are extremely unaffordable, and I think Salt Lake City is right behind there. It's not quite Seattle yet, but the prices are going up that my 5-year-old and my 2-year-old, by the time they're of age to buy a house, Salt Lake is going to be so unaffordable, they're probably going to have to rent in the beginning. They say every market has a median age and where people start to officially buy their first home, right? And I'm not sure what the age groups are. I forgot what the article said. But for example, here in Salt Lake, it used to be that you could pretty much buy a house based off of affordability in the Salt Lake area when you were in your mid-20s. Now prices are going up so quickly that it's probably late 20s, early 30s. And then you get a market like Los Angeles where the average buyer who's buying their first home, I think, is their mid-40s, right? And so you're renting all of those years before you finally have enough money saved up to buy a house. And where I'm going with that is Salt Lake City is, going in that direction where I think that the younger generation is going to take longer to experience home ownership than, let's say, my generation did, because by the time the younger generation gets to an age to buy homes, like I said, they're just going to be unaffordable. So it might be valuable to learn how to virtual invest even if you live in Salt Lake, and it's kind of hard to even fathom that because Salt Lake's always been such an affordable place to live, but I don't think that's going to be the case for much longer. And maybe we get a market correction and the market goes down, and great, that'd be amazing, and then affordability comes back. But in due time, it's just going to go right back up, and when it does, that's where I think Salt Lake is going to be really considered an unaffordable market. I've shared on this show before, in 2019, the National Association of Real Estate put out an article that, I think it was the National Association, I'm racking my brain right now if that was the source, but they put together the list of the top 25 most unaffordable markets in the nation. And for the first time in history, in 2019, Salt Lake City hit that list at number 25. We were in last place. Never in history have we ever been considered an unaffordable market in the United States of America until 2019. Our prices have gone up so dramatic over the last few years that in 2019 we hit the most unaffordable market list, top 25 in the nation. Now, the bad news is we are officially unaffordable according to this list. The good news is, of all the unaffordable markets, we're the most affordable at 25, right? And so, if you're not considering purchasing Salt Lake real estate, and it's something that you want to do, if you have no desire to purchase real estate, then, don't purchase real estate. I have no desire to flip cars. I know a guy who fixes and flips cars. That's what he does for a living. He has a dealership, and they'll buy cars at auctions, turn around, fix and flip them. I have no desire to do that, so I'm in no hurry to go buy cars. It's just not what I do. But for those of you who have thought about buying real estate in the Salt Lake market, I think a wake-up call as far as this article is concerned, is you need to take action now. I think if you've procrastinated the idea of investing in real estate, you cannot procrastinate any longer, because I really feel like it's going to be a point where you're going to not, there's going to be a lot of people that are not going to be able to afford purchasing real estate here in the Salt Lake area. And so at this particular point, once that comes, you're going to kick yourself that you didn't take advantage of buying Salt Lake real estate when it was the number 25 most inexpensive market in the nation, and it's now number 10 or whatever. It'll never be number 1. I don't think. New York City, San Francisco, Los Angeles markets are always going to be more expensive. In my guess, as far as my guesstimation, they're typically going to always be more expensive than the Salt Lake market. But I see the Salt Lake market climbing that ladder, climbing that list. And when it does, it's going to be very difficult to start buying investment properties here in Salt Lake, especially investment properties that will cash flow, right? You're going to get a property that's going to produce income for you based off of rental income and your mortgage payment on cash flow when your mortgage payment is small. If you spend a lot of money buying an expensive property, your mortgage payment's high, usually the rental income does not supersede that mortgage payment, and you've got negative cash flow. So if you're going to purchase real estate at a point where you can get cash flow, really the time is now. Like I said, there's definitely talks of a market correction and real estate prices going down, but there's been talks about that for the last 3 years, and it hasn't. And I'm not saying it won't. I believe it will. When? I don't know. But when it does, that's, for sure, if you're procrastinating getting into the game, that's where I highly suggest you better not procrastinate any longer. You better get into the game for sure if we do see a market correction. But the way I like to invest is I don't like to assume there's a market correction coming, because nobody knows the future. I'm out there attacking, good assets right now, whether it's a correction or not. Always just hypothetically, I think it's a good idea to always be on the lookout. And if it does correct, then great. We do get, the opportunity of seeing better prices in the real estate market. So the other topic in the course, the 6-course all-in-one course that I'm creating, is how to hire virtual assistants. This is the 6th and final course that I think is very valuable if you're going to see any type of growth in your business, which is how to hire people, right? And over the last 10, 11 years, I have been working with virtual assistants, meaning I'm working with assistants that live in other parts of the world, right? And I typically tend to work with, most of the virtual assistants I've worked with over the last 10 years have been from the Philippines. So right now I've got an assistant in the Philippines as we speak, and she's part of my team, and she helps me with so much, just basically what an assistant would here, right? And here's what's crazy. Right now, because of the coronavirus, so many people are working from home, right? There was this mentality since the beginning of time for so many employers that in order to run a successful business, you had to have an office that everybody showed up to. And then the coronavirus made everybody have to stay home, and all of a sudden, all these massive corporations adapted, and now they figured out how to have their staff work from home. Well, if your staff can work from home, they can work from home from anywhere, right? And over the last 10 years, I have been utilizing virtual assistants in the Philippines. And if you think about it, anytime you call your cell phone provider, your bank, your airline to book a ticket, when I call Delta, when I call Sprint, when I call Chase, the customer service is out of India or out of the Philippines, right? And you think about, well, if these massive corporations can hire virtual assistants, why can't smaller corporations do it? So I've been doing it for the last 10 to 11 years. And, you ask any entrepreneur if they could go back and do things over again, what would they do? And in many cases, I've heard this over and over and over. You'll hear a lot of entrepreneurs say, I would have hired somebody sooner. Because when you first start a business, you think, I got to do this perfectly. I got to do this right. So you do it yourself. And then what happens is you do everything yourself. You're the janitor. You're the CEO. You're the everything of that business. And what happens is when you are the janitor of that business, then you aren't able to focus on the higher producing income of being the CEO of that business. And whatever it is that you're doing in that business, you can hire somebody else out for the lower producing income activities so that you can stay focused on the higher income producing activities. So many entrepreneurs will say, yes, if I could start all over and do it again, I would have hired out sooner. And I totally agree. But the hiccup is, yeah, that's great and dandy to say and want, but if you don't have the ability to pay somebody, then how do you do it, right? Like, if you wanted to pay somebody to come work for you, and let's say here specifically, we live in Salt Lake City, and you thought, well, I need an assistant to help me do this and that and this and that. You're looking at $15 to $20 an hour, depending on who that assistant is. You might not have the ability to pay $15 to $20 an hour yet, right? You haven't grown to that capability. Well, virtual assistants are significantly more affordable that you can hire in other parts of the world. So I'll give you an example of how it works. And this is exactly what the course teaches people. So this is exactly what Delta does. This is what Chase Bank does. This is what Verizon and T-Mobile and Sprint all do. Basically, you create a job that whatever it is that you want to do, you create the job itself. So if you're looking for an assistant, if you're looking for a website developer, if you're looking for a social media manager, whatever it is you're looking for, you put it on the internet. There's certain websites that you can go to that you would post this ad. It's like a KSL, right? Except it's not KSL. And you post this job ad on the internet, and basically the whole wide world has access to it as well. And anybody who's looking for a job will go and search this platform for opportunities for employment. Now, when I will post a job up on there, I will get Americans that will, say, but here's what they do, they bid. So they're gonna bid on what they would charge you to do what it is that you're asking to get done. So that's why you put in the description what you need somebody to do. They read the description and say, okay, based off that, I would do that for this amount of money, per hour, per project, per whatever. So, I'll get Americans that will, through all across the United States that will bid, yeah, I'll do that for $28 an hour, $25 an hour, $30 an hour. And I'll get people in Canada, same prices, 20, 25, 30. And I'll get people in England, Australia, same price, New Zealand, 20, 25, $30 per hour, right? But then you get people from India, you get people from the Philippines, you get people from Bangladesh, you get people from Africa, you get people from South America that will say, I'll do that for $2 an hour, $4 an hour, $5, $6, $10 an hour. Significantly less than what you would pay somebody here locally, which is obviously why those massive corporations go and hire those virtual assistants. Now, in the beginning, you want to get somebody hired as quickly as possible. So this is a great way for somebody to be able to get into becoming an entrepreneur, immediately hiring staff, so that you can afford to be able to get help. And then as you grow, sure, then if you want, you can choose to hire somebody locally. If that's what you really want, then you can choose to hire someone locally. I know a gentleman here in Park City runs a massive, they sold it, but he had a really successful tech company, and he had, I believe, if I remember correctly, 7 virtual assistants that worked full-time, 40 hours a week for him, 6 of which were in the Philippines, 1 which was in Los Angeles. Really beautiful setup how he did this. So what he did is he would speak to the gal in Los Angeles on a daily basis and basically communicate what needs to get done for the day and all of that good stuff. The gal from Los Angeles then managed the 6 in the Philippines. So he only had to speak to 1. It's not like he had to speak to 7 employees consistently every single day, managing their work. He could focus on what he needed to do, have a daily meeting with the gal in LA, in Los Angeles, and then that gal in Los Angeles managed everybody who was virtual. I guess she was virtual too, but that was managed everybody outside of the country. So he was able to take this little tiny tech company, hire help, and grow it massively. Now, actually, as I'm saying this, he actually had, and still does today, because now he's doing another tech company. his developers that developed the technology actually are in the Ukraine. So the Filipinos were in charge of the marketing. They're the ones that got the technology out there so people actually knew what it was. The gal in Los Angeles managed those people, but the developers that were actually creating the technology, some were here in the States, but a lot of them were in the Ukraine. I remember him telling me he had to go to the Ukraine a couple of times. So here's a guy who's developed a tech company in Park City, Utah, while utilizing help at a very affordable rate of people highly super capable. When I say super capable, I mean these guys have master's degrees. It's just where they live, the going rate of what they charge is significantly less than, let's say, where we live. And so he's able to build this massive team of individuals to help him grow his company, which, like I said, he's already sold and now he's doing another one. I don't know where he's at with this other one, but very interesting way to be able to hire help at an early phase of your entrepreneurship to help you grow quicker, to get to a point that you are now hands off on those little tasks that are not higher producing income. And then again, like I said, if you get to a point where you want to start hiring locals, go for it, right? But this course that I'm talking about that I'm so excited about is going to teach all of those things as far as those 6 different topics. There's 6 different courses in one. So we are anticipated to launch that here probably at the new year of 2021. So definitely stay tuned if you've ever thought about getting involved in real estate. Like I said, I think it's going to be, personally, the best course out there because of all that's going to offer in one course. You can go out and get real estate courses that are going to offer, and I'm not saying all of them, but a lot of real estate courses out there are niche specific and you have to buy them all. That's what I did when I first got involved in real estate. I wanted to get educated, and I remember I went and spent $25,000 for a real estate education program that lasted a year. And in that education program, there were things that all the niches you could do, but you could also just focus on the one niche. After that program's over, it doesn't mean that you're an expert now. It's like anything, right? You go to school, you go to the University of Utah or BYU or wherever you go for 4 years to become something. The day you graduate doesn't mean you're an expert at that. You still gotta keep educating yourself on whatever it might be, whether you're an attorney and you got to educate yourself on law, whether it's medicine, you got to educate yourself in the medical field, or accounting, because those laws change. The day you graduate from school doesn't mean you can go out there and you're now an expert. You got to keep evolving. And so since then, I'm constantly educating myself on individual niches that I've learned through different courses that were individual niche courses. And so there's obviously no right or wrong way to do it. It's just kind of what you want, but I feel like if you're going to have the best success, it's probably going to be based off of learning a little bit of them all. So that's super exciting as far as anybody out there who's really thinking, hey man, I want to get into the game. This is a great way to start to learn how to do the steps necessary to, like I said, start investing in real estate and build a team that's going to be able to help you grow at an affordable rate. So, with real estate investing, if you've listened to my show before, we've talked about, we've talked with so many guests in regards to investing and that are real estate investors. And right now, with the market being so hot, I would say the number one question I get asked, and if you're listening out there and you're thinking about getting involved in real estate, I know you've asked yourself this, or you've asked somebody this, is you hear all these investors talk about deals that they've done, and the question becomes, how the heck do you find these deals, right? And that's the greatest thing about real estate investing is you learn how to just do that one niche. Now we're going to speak about one particular niche right now. We talked about how the course caters to all the niches, being able to recognize finding a deal. But if you can find a deal because you now know how to recognize a deal, because you now know all the ins and outs on if it's a good deal for a flip, a rental, a seller, finance, whatever it may be, then there are people out there like myself who are looking for those as well. And if somebody brings that to me, they call it wholesaling or bird dogging. It depends on if you lock it under contract or not. But there are people out there that make a living finding these deals and then turning around and immediately reselling them to people like me. I do the same. I'll wholesale as well. But as I mentioned earlier, I tend to prefer to fix and flip. So people will come to me and say, hey, listen, I've got this opportunity. You can buy it for this price. And do you want it or not? And I'll assess it, and in many cases I'll be like, yeah, I want it, and I buy it, and I fix it up and flip it. But they've just made a profit on just finding the deal, right? And so we're going to take a quick commercial break, but when we come back, I'm going to share some tips with you on how to find these deals. Because again, it is one of the most trickiest part of the real estate investing world. People always say cash is king. You know what? In a hot market, the deal is king. There are a lot of people right now in this hot economy that have a lot of cash, but they don't have the deal. And if you can find the deal, oh man, it's easy to find the cash. If you can find a deal that's going to make someone money, give them a good return, it's not difficult to find the money. And so the real trick here is to find the deal. You know, you can learn how to take a house from the time you demo it to the time you resell it, and teach someone all those steps, but those steps become irrelevant if you don't know how to find the deal. So you can find a great rental property at a super affordable price that you're going to turn around and rent for great cash flow, and you can teach someone all those steps. But if they can't find it, what's the point of knowing all those steps? And so I'm going to start sharing with you guys after the commercial break some tips on how to find these awesome deals. So stay tuned.
Did you know the snap leash is the most convenient leash in the world? That's right, the most convenient leash in the world. The snap leash was designed to make life a little easier for you and your pup. Whether you're out on a stroll in the park, or possibly a walk through the city, or maybe even a hike up in the mountains, the snap leash is the perfect leash for you. The snap leash can easily and conveniently convert into 7 types of leashes, making the snap leash the most convenient leash in the world. What other leash do you know that is 7 leashes in one? With the snap leash having appearances on the Today Show in New York City, TV 47 in Dallas, Texas, and ABC 4 on Midday, Utah, you are definitely going to want to take a peek at what all the rave is about and what the snap leash can do for you and your best friend. Make life a little more convenient for you and your pup, and visit www.snapleash.com today.
All right, guys, we are back. You're listening to K-Talk Radio, 1640 AM. This is the show, Utah Home Sweet Home. I am your host, Yoshi Shiraki. I watched The Mandalorian last night. It came back out. I don't know if anybody else got a chance to see that or if they follow that series, the Mandalorian series, which is like the Boba Fett breed of the Star Wars movie series. It's pretty good. If you don't watch The Mandalorian, I'd recommend checking it out. I think it have fun watching it with my 5-year-old. He's really into Star Wars. In fact, it's Halloween. Happy Halloween, everyone. My son's Kylo Ren today. He's going to be Kylo Ren for Halloween, and my daughter, who's 2, is going to be Rey. My wife is Darth Vader, and my son wanted me to be Jabba the Hutt. I did not get a Jabba the Hutt costume though, but yeah, I'm not going to be Jabba the Hutt. But yeah, Mandalorian's a pretty good series, and it was really fun to watch the second series come back out yesterday. So, okay, so now we're going to dive into how to find these great deals. Okay, so we had a guest, 3 weeks ago, I think, by the name of Trevor Thompson. Some of you may have seen that show, listened to that show. When I say seen, for those of you who don't know, we film and host every single show and put them up on YouTube. So in case you miss any show, if you go to our website, www.utahhomesweethome.com, scroll down to the bottom, you'll see all our social media links. Go ahead and click on the YouTube link, and you'll see, and then there's a bunch of playlists. Click on the K-Talk playlist, and you'll see every show we've ever recorded here in studios filmed. I've got a videographer who comes in and films. Actually, he is not here today, so I got the camera up on a tripod. But we have Bailey who comes in and films every day, and we get these videos recorded so that in case you miss it, you can go back and watch it. Or in case you missed half of it, you can go back and check out the rest of the show. So this is a show that Trevor did a few weeks back. He came in and we talked about, what are you doing right now to get deals? Because as investors, we all love to kind of see what is working for one person to see if that's the same thing that's working for us and kind of just compare notes. And he said something that was very important. I think it's very important for people to understand this. If you're going to go out there and, let's say, make real estate something that you want to do more of, if you're looking just to do it like on the weekends, then it is what it is. But if this is something you're like, you know what, I hate my 9 to 5, or I want to get as many rental properties in the next 10 to 15 years, or whatever it may be, and you want to take it serious, then what he said is you've got to be everywhere all the time. That's the best place to be to get a lot of deals. And what I mean by that is I'm going to share some of the ways that we go out and find them. And being all of the places all the time basically means you're going to do all of these. Right? Some people get into real estate and said, I heard somebody say you call for sale by owners. Yes, you're right. You do. You call for sale by owners. But that's not the only way and the only thing you do, because if that is, you're going to limit the amount of leads that come down your pipeline. You're going to also want to do this, this, and this, and this. Right? And if you're doing all of the above, then your pipeline gets full faster and you're able to find a deal sooner and more of them. Okay, so for sale by owner is one way that we find opportunities that are oftentimes a good deal. But here's the reality. In a hot market, a lot of for sale by owner transactions aren't that, it's not the best place to necessarily spend your time in a hot market. In a down market, it's a way better. We spend a lot more time. In fact, my virtual assistants in the Philippines will basically just jump on KSL on the Philippines, and through a Google phone number, they will call for sale by owners to see what they're looking to get for their home and to find out what condition it is. And they basically narrow down the leads for me to be able to find the best potential opportunities, right? In a hot market, you know, because it's hot, the house is probably going to sell for top dollar, and so it's just not the best place to go and spend a lot of time. Although, being everywhere all the time, you do want to spend a little bit of time there. Even in a hot market, you may get lucky and find something. But right now, I think probably what's working the most outside of people's networks. So Trevor shared on the show that if he had to pick where they're getting most of their deals from, now keep in mind Trevor's a real estate agent as well, it's other real estate agents. See, Trevor's team has done a phenomenal job to notify so many real estate agents that they are the buying, fixing, and flipping team of Utah. So when real estate agents out there and they are meeting with a client and this house is like missing part of the roof because it got blew off in our little hurricane or whatever, and it's just kind of a house that the listing agent's thinking, yeah, I could list this, but I don't think anyone's going to buy it because you're missing part of your roof or whatever. They then basically can call Trevor and Trevor's team and say, hey, listen, here's an opportunity. We've got a house that, you know, part of it's missing for whatever. It got burnt in a fire, this or that. And Trevor will buy those, right? Trevor and his team will buy those. So will I. But where I'm going with that is they've done a really good job of notifying a bunch of real estate agents that are out there. If they see something like that, call them up because they're open to buying it. I've done an okay job. They've done a much better job. I would buy the same house, just more people know to call them because they've done probably better than anyone I personally know in the entire state of Utah as far as networking with as many real estate agents as possible on how they are the buying, fixing, and flip it team. Now, they get tons of deals that way because they have so many people out there hypothetically now looking for deals for them. Now, the person doesn't go out and look for deals for them, but when they're out there and they find something like what I just described, they think of them and send it to them. So just to get that out there, I wanted to share, you know, because Trevor was our guest and he said you got to be everywhere all the time, but their best resource of finding these off-market opportunities or great deals is through their network. Now, outside of their network, I would say another great way that people get deals, and this is like every investor, this is no longer just, I'm not speaking about Trevor anymore, I'm speaking about every fix and flipper, wholesaler, landlord, investor out there in the entire United States, not just in Utah. They find a lot of deals through mailing campaigns, right? If you think about it, car dealerships do it. RC Willey does it. Costco does it. You open up your mailbox and there's this key attached to a postcard in your mailbox, and it says, hey, if this key starts up the car at our dealership, the car is yours, right? And they send you a mailing campaign, and what do you usually do with it? Throw it away. You usually throw it away. RC Willie does it. They send you, hey, we're having a 4th of July sale, discounts on everything. What do you probably do with it? If you don't need that car, at least if you don't think that key will start the car, which I don't think it will, but if you don't need the furniture in RC Willie, you just basically throw it away, right? And no harm, no foul. Typically, that's what real estate investors do as well. We will do mailing campaigns. You've probably got a card from somebody, some point in your life that says, hey, I'll buy your house. Are you looking to sell? And it's all about timing, right? When the car dealership sends out that key attached to the postcard saying if this key starts the car is yours, it's all about timing. When I get that, I'm not shopping for a car, so that postcard just goes right in the garbage. But maybe out of every, 1,000 postcards they send, one person happens to be looking for a truck and is like, you know what? I'm looking for a truck anyway. I might as well take this key down to the dealership and see if it starts, and if it doesn't, I'm going to look at trucks anyway. And then they go down there, doesn't start, and they buy a truck, and the dealership makes his money back on the investment of the postcards. It works very similar as far as real estate investing. Real estate investors aren't, these geniuses that discovered the mailing campaign. Car dealerships, like I said, RC Willie, all these massive companies have done it. We just duplicate what they're doing because it obviously works. And so if you've got a budget, this one obviously takes a marketing budget. If you've got a budget and you really want to get into the game and you really want to find good deals, then I highly recommend starting a mailing campaign like a car dealership, like Larry H. Miller, like RC Willie, like these massive corporations do to find leads and clients, okay? Now, that's probably going to be the way you're going to get the most deals the fastest, but you're also going to spend the most to get those deals the fastest because you have to have money to do the mailing campaign. So, maybe you're thinking, well, that's great, Yoshi. Thank you for sharing that tip. I understand that's probably the best producing resource of getting phenomenal deals, but unfortunately I don't have a budget to do a mailing campaign, so I guess I'm not going to start real estate investing today. Well, great news, because I'm about to give you another strategy, but this strategy takes labor, right? It takes time and effort, but not a single penny is necessarily involved. Now, I like to spend a tiny bit of money, which is paper and ink from a printer, because I'm going to hand out a flyer, but this is basically door knocking. If I had to start all over from scratch, zero, somebody came and took all my money away, took my house away, took everything away and says, oh, okay, we're just confiscating all your stuff, see you later. And I was like, crap, now I got to make money because I just lost my house. I lost everything, my car, everything. I don't have any money to do a mailing campaign. If I had to start all over from 0, 0, 0, scratch, what I would do is door knock. Okay, that is a very good producing way of getting leads as well. Now, door knocking is laborious. You got to walk from one house to the next house to the next house to the next house, and the times that I have door knocked in the past, I probably don't do it for more than 2 hours, because after 2 hours I'm just like tired. I'm like, I'm done. And that's even if I get to the 2 hour window, but it's free, right? And so for those of you who are out there who are truly hungry to get started in real estate, who are truly driven to get started in real estate, to start investing, but you don't have a lot of cash, this is what seriously even bigger investors do. Now, most bigger investors, we don't door knock anymore, but we hire people to door knock for us because it works. Door knocking works. But then again, you have to have a budget to be able to pay somebody to door knock. You might as well send a mailing campaign. But if you don't have a budget, the point is what I'm trying to do is give you a way to go out there and get started for free. And if I had to start all over from scratch, door knocking is what I would do. Now, I like to go basically, and it's not just me, by the way, there are a lot of investors that door knock. Like I say, just a lot of the bigger guys don't actually do it themselves anymore. But obviously that's how important it is that they're paying somebody to do it. Now, if you can, ideally you're going to want to give something to the individual so they can remember you and have your phone number, right? And if they're not home, you may want to be able to, you've seen landscapers do it all the time. Like there's a couple landscaping companies that mow lawns in my neighborhood, and they'll slide a business card in the door. And they're just basically in the neighborhood already mowing someone's lawn, so they just go and start sliding business cards in everybody's door on that street, gets them more clients, It's kind of the same thing. So you want to door knock. They just don't door knock. I don't think they have the time to like have a conversation because they got to go mow the next lawn. But it's smart. They're just kind of letting everyone know, hey, we're in the neighborhood if you need your lawn mowed. So what I like to do is basically hand them something, obviously, same thing. It could be a business card, it could be anything, that they're just going to have your phone number to call you back. Now what you're going to want to do is basically just have a conversation with some of these people, and not everyone's going to be excited that you just knocked on their door to see if they know anyone who's looking to buy or sell, or if they're buying or selling. But that's exactly what you're going to do. You're just going to knock on the door and say, hey, you know, I am looking to purchase some real estate in the next 4 weeks, and we're going door to door to see if anybody knows if anyone's selling. Are you by chance selling? And what will happen is you may get a lead from that person in that they are selling, or they may say, well, I'm not selling, but my grandma just passed away, my aunt just passed away, or my friend's aunt just passed away, and I know they're thinking of selling, or we're thinking of selling grandma's house, and now you've got a lead that you can follow up with. And that's how a lot of these real estate investors, believe it or not, get a lot of opportunities. You know, the bottom line is, I share that right now on radio, and I've shared that, you know, on stage. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a national public speaker on the topic of real estate. I've shared that exact same tip in Orlando, Miami, Atlanta, Chicago, Las Vegas, Phoenix, Los Angeles. The reality is I can share that tip on this is how we do it, but a lot of people just aren't willing to go do that door knocking, right? They're like, man, if I have a day off, I want to watch football. I want to go fishing. I want to do this. And who can blame them? Yeah, I'd rather watch football and fish as well than go door knocking. But if you can designate some time, about a 2-hour window, I would say about a 2-hour window, you know, maybe twice a month. I mean, if you're really serious about getting in real estate, then once a week. But if you did it every other week for 2 hours, what's 4 hours? What's 4 hours in the entire month? If it's something that you feel like, I want to get ahead in life, I'd like to quit my 9 to 5, I'd like to quit my job, I'd like to become an entrepreneur, start my own business, real estate's a great way to do that. But if it's just like, I love my job, I never want to quit my job, but I want to find good investment properties that I can park my money and, you know, get a return on it, then these are great ways that you're going to be able to go out and do that. And I gave you 2 of the most higher producing ways. One, obviously, that costs money, and one that doesn't cost money, because I don't know where you are as far as having a budget to be able to do marketing. But if you're the guy that has money, I would, do a mailer. Maybe do both, right? If you're a guy who doesn't have the budget to do mailer, then just do the door knocking. And if you go out there and start door knocking, I promise you, I mean, if you do it consistently, if you go out there and do it for like 2 hours and don't get anything your first day and be like, this doesn't work, then sure, it's not going to work ever again because you're never going to go do it again. But if you do it consistently and keep up with it, then eventually you're going to start to be able to get a lot of leads that come down your pipeline, where people are going to eventually have your contact information because you're going to leave them a flyer, a business card, and be able to get them to call you back. Now, in regards to the door knocking, there are lots of investors out there that just literally will door knock any neighborhood randomly. They just, because they know the door knocking is a great way that just is going to start to produce leads. You knock on enough doors, you're going to find a lead, and a good lead. And so there are investors out there that just will door knock any house for any reason. I typically like to have what I call a particular reason to door knock a particular house. So what I mean by that is, if by chance I know of a buddy or myself, let's say I've got a flip that I'm getting ready to put on the market and I'm going to do an open house for it, then what I like to do is I will, the day before or the morning of the open house, go and promote the open house. So if you're a real estate agent out there, this is a great tip for you, because if you're already out there doing open houses, if you're already listing properties, then this is a great way to get more business, whether it's another listing or whether it's a house that you buy and invest in. So pay attention, grab a pen, as they say. Grab a pen and jot this down. What you're going to want to do is basically the morning of the open house, create a flyer promoting the property. And it doesn't even have to be your property. Like if I've got a buddy in the office that's like, hey man, we're listing our flip tomorrow. and I want to generate some leads, I'm in a position where I'm like, yeah, I need more leads in my pipeline. I'll be like, dude, do you mind if I promote your open house tomorrow? I'm not going to do the open house. I'm just going to go door knock the open house and invite people the morning of. That's it. I don't really want to do the open house, and you can, but that's not where I'm going with this. My whole thing is I want to just do the door knocking. So I will literally do it for somebody else's listing if I feel like I need more leads down my pipeline at that time. And I'll create a little flyer that says, hey, Yoshi Shiraki, Equity Real Estate, here's my phone number, and then I'll just put a picture of the house and the address, and I door knock, and I'll say, hey, I'm Yoshi Shiraki. We're holding an open house later today at lunch, 2 houses down. If you want to come see what houses are selling for top value in your market, come take a peek at what it looks like inside. Here's a flyer. Hand that to them. So now it looks like I just invited them to a party, right? An open house is kind of a party. There's cookies, there's treats, all that good stuff. And then now the ice is broken. And after the ice is broken, it's an easy conversation at that point for me to say, do you know anybody else who's selling by chance? Oh, you're selling. Great. Do you have a real estate agent? If you're an agent and you want to get more business, it's a great way to start getting in front of people. Great, you're selling. What are you selling for? And if you're looking to buy it, then, offer to buy it. But you've already disclosed your real estate agent, your picture, your phone number, your brokerage is on that flyer. Now at that particular point, the door is open for you to do business in any way, shape, or form as far as investing or listing, whatever you choose to pursue. If you are a licensed agent, that is a great, phenomenal way to get more business. So, you always hear a lot of people say, when you get your license, go do an open house for somebody in your office. Well, I personally think, this is my personal opinion, yes, that's valuable to do the open house, no question. You want to hypothetically just network with as many people as you can. But I actually like to door knock the open house personally, because now I'm having a conversation one-on-one. If the open house is jammed and there's 20, 30 people walking through the home, then you don't necessarily get to have a conversation with all of them, right? And a lot of them come with their real estate agent, which is great, but it's very difficult to have genuine good conversations that you can find out if somebody is actually working without an agent, working with an agent, if they need an agent, at an open house. At least in my opinion, in my experience, I find it significantly easier if I'm standing on the front door of somebody's house without a crowd, and I can give my one-on-one attention to that individual and then really dissect their situation and figure out if that's an opportunity for me to be able to list, buy, whatever it may be, right? And so door knocking, as I shared, is a phenomenal way to go about finding leads. Okay, so if you want to get started in real estate and you're thinking, man, how do I do it? Well, I'm going to make it really easy for you. There's one way that you can do it. You can basically go to utahhomesweethome.com and call me. My phone number's on there. And if it's something that you're really passionate about starting, as far as I want to get started by my first rental, whatever it may be, then feel free to give me a ring. I'd love to help you. I'd love to assist you in any way, shape, or form, even if it's just, ideas. If you've already got an agent, no big deal. Happy to share ideas. If you don't have an agent, I'd be happy to help you, assist you, represent you, guide you in the direction of setting you up with the right team to be able to start your real estate investing career, be able to roll up those assets in the future, and be able to build a portfolio that can give you more flexibility in your life in the future if that's something that you're interested in. But on that note, we've come to the end of our show, and it is Halloween, and so, I don't know, are you guys going trick-or-treating? We're not trick-or-treating this year. My wife's decided she doesn't want to take the kids trick-or-treating. I don't even know if anybody else is trick-or-treating, but we just decided to have a little party for our family at the house, just with our kids, and my wife baked a ton of cookies and treats and Rice Krispie treats and cakes, and it's almost a birthday party. It kind of reminds me of a birthday party, but it's all Halloween decor, and so we're going to go have a Halloween party here later today, and then we will trick-or-treat Grandma and Grandpa's house. We're going to trick-or-treat one house. So we will be trick-or-treating one house later tonight. But on that note, I hope everybody has a spectacular Halloween, and I hope everybody has a spectacular rest of the weekend. Okay, before we part ways, in case you have a dog or know someone else who does have a dog, I wanted to take a quick second to show you the snap leash. The snap leash can literally do so many things, and I'm going to share with you one of the many cool things that it can do. As you can see, the snap leash is designed with 2 swivel hooks, one on each end. This end has a cushion stitched into it to make it comfortable when walking your dog. Now, all you have to do is take this swivel hook, put it into this very first grommet, and now you've got your handle. Okay, so now let's imagine you're at the park and you want to secure your pet quickly, safely, and easily to a park bench, a tree, or a pole because you just want to sit down and relax. Well, all you need to do is take this swivel hook, remove it from the very first grommet, wrap this leash around any size tree or pole or park bench, and put it into the appropriate grommet, and now you have secured your pet quickly, safely, and easily. And when it's time to head home, another great feature about the snap leash is you can simply wrap it around your waist for hands-free walking. Lastly, if you ever accidentally forget your waist bags at home, these grommets make a great place to fasten the waist bags so you never leave home without them. And if you want to see all of the other cool things that the snap leash can do, then please just click on the link below and find out why so many others are falling in love with the snap leash.